my friend, and then by way of his mom, he's my friend. And Eduardo grew up in the church, and he's been doing music his entire life. And he worked at music in the church, and now he's got this super wonderful program where all of these really good artists come together and have plays and do musicals and all that. And he teaches little kids. And when I didn't have somebody to play at St. James House, he came out there and played. He's just one of the good guys who happens to be exceptionally talented.
Well, and Mickey is exceptionally generous in saying all that nice stuff about me. Although I do feel like Mickey is my friend, that's right that she does know my mom, and Mickey's daughter Christy is my go-to when I need a plus one for shows. A lot of times I'll get tickets to, back when the before times, when shows were really going. And I'd always say, let me call Christy because she'll always come into town and see a quick show with me. So thank you so much for having me, everybody. As I sit here today, I am looking out the left side here, out some windows onto Fannin Street, and on the right side is Main Street. So I live in the heart of Midtown. Um, so if you hear sirens like some are approaching now, just kind of this is the life out here. Lots of activity, lots going on. Lots of friends that live right around my front door, So, but I love being here in Midtown, right in the heart of it all. But I want to start today with something that, if that's okay, Meredith, if we're in a good place to start, okay. I want to start today with something that I do every time I hold any rehearsal or meeting or event or online class. And what I always say is, just go with me on this, and then I'll explain myself afterwards. And it's kind of a fun thing, but I want to ask you today, what are you thankful for? What has been going on in your life that you think, I'm really thankful for that. And it doesn't have to be this major life event, although it could be. But what I always say is to help break the ice and get going, and then we'll go around here, is there's a Starbucks in Midtown that has a drive-through. So during this quarantine time, that has been like a lifesaver for me to be able to get in my car and go to the drive-through. I feel like I'm buddies with those guys. So every time I get in my car and I go to that, I'm thankful for that drive-through and for those people that work there. So I will say that again today. That's what I'm thankful for. But who else wants to share something? What are you thankful for? Any old thing.
I'm thankful for this beautiful day.
Yes, me too. The weather has been good. I read a post today that said, "I keep dressing like it's going to be colder because I'm optimistic." It's getting a little warm outside, but it was beautiful today, and I love sitting outside on my patio and just soaking in that vitamin D. All right, what else are we thankful for today? Who else wants to share? Dan?
I'm thankful that I woke up to getting little pictures of the great grandbabies who have been sick and they're doing better. And then another text from my granddaughter-in-law in California showing me her baby bump. So
Aw.
that was a beautiful way to start your day.
I think about that. My grandmother passed away back in the 90s, and I think all the time, technology now, can you imagine not being able to instantly see pictures of your grandkids? There were generations of you couldn't see that, and I think about that all the time. I'm sad that she didn't get to experience that, but I'm glad that people get to now, so you can keep up with everybody instantly.
Hard keeping up.
We're right, because there's so much going on. Who else wants to share? What are you thankful for today? Anybody?
I'm
Carol.
well. I'm thankful that as of now, my health is holding and I'm able to walk every morning. That has been my saving grace through all of this. So I'm very
Going
thankful.
on a walk. I love that. And I'm think we can always be thankful for our health. It's something that lots of people take for granted, or waking up and enjoying the weather, but it's something that's so important. Who else wants to share? What else are we thankful for today? Anyone want to jump in?
Well, I'm thankful that I found these dog grooming gloves that like take off 4 times the amount of dog fur off my dog, and it doesn't get all over my house. And I'm just like so thankful that we found those things.
It's like an undercoat. It gets to the end.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, what needs to be shedded, but not inside my house.
Right. I have 2 cats who are very sheddy, and we also have these old wood floors everywhere. And so, I mean, you have hair all over the floor every day. But now maybe a little bit better, and you can bond with your pets by brushing. I think that I always start every class like this because I think it's just a great opportunity for us to just take a second to remember that we have so much to be thankful for. As an artist and artists in general, it's so easy to get down on ourselves. We're running around town from gig to gig. We're probably not getting paid enough. We're overworked. We don't have enough sleep going on. And so it's so easy for us to, just start to feel negative. And so if we can take these opportunities to just publicly say, I am thankful for my health. I am thankful for these new dog gloves. I'm thankful for my grandbabies and my grandbabies that are on the way. I'm thankful for the weather, for the walk. I've had kids all the time say, I'm thankful for my pets. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for school. Can you believe that? Some have even said, I'm thankful for school. They were stuck away from school for so long. And I just think it is so important as performers for us to be thankful. And I think it's important for us to approach our work from that thankful space because it has a total different effect on the audience who eventually sees it. I think when an audience sees a group of thankful performers, they know it and it impacts them. So that's something I really believe in, just the power of being thankful and saying it out loud. I know I've been in situations before where I've stepped into a class and kind of felt bad. Maybe I was a little feeling sick or I didn't whatever. And then when you start to hear people say these affirmations, it just changes your mood for the better. And this is really kind of my earliest remembrance of being in the church. Now, I grew up in an Assemblies of God church, which evangelical, okay? Think holy roller, maybe. During the worship service, there are people with flags, that kind of stuff. Yeah, lift hands up in the air all the time. So it was an evangelical church, and one of the things that would happen from time to time is the pastor or the music person would come up and say, "Who wants to share a word of testimony?" They'd say, "Who wants to talk about what God is doing in your life?" And that always just resonated with me. I loved hearing about these things that were happening in people's lives and how it was a positive thing for them. So now this is my adaptation of that, asking people what they're thankful for. We work with a lot of people who are involved in the church, and we work with a lot of people who are not. So, saying a word of testimony maybe won't hit as well as saying, an affirmation or what are you thankful for. So that is how I start everything I do, and I hope that was a good experience for you guys, and I hope it's something that maybe you want to do more often. Just think about what you're thankful for and say it out loud. I started reading this book called Think and Grow Rich. I don't know if anyone read that, but one of the things that it talks about is the secret, right? Oprah talks about the secret. It's like this mindfulness idea where you have to speak things out loud and it'll have an impact on the real world. So that, this is part of that too. But I'm happy to hear what you all are thankful for today. I'm just going to talk a little bit more about, sort of introduce myself now and talk a little bit about what I do. And then just at any point after I finish that, we'll just talk to each other, and I want this to be just a really open time, and it's, to be honest, it's, for me, it's just a really nice opportunity to get to visit with people. I love working with my students, which is a big part of what we do, but it's also nice to be around people that are not, 9 years old and always talking all the time, and so it's good to be around a different group of people that I can communicate with. So, my name's Eduardo Guzman. I attended a private elementary school all the way up until I went to high school, and then I went to South Houston High School, which is in Pasadena, which is a southeast suburb of Houston. And I tell you, the difference between going to a small private school where I had about a dozen people in my class to South Houston High School. I mean, it was a high school where they starched, guys wore the starched denims. And I thought it meant that there was some sort of involvement in something. I was totally unaware of what to expect, but it was an amazing experience being in the choir there and starting music there. And then after that, I also went to a private university, Houston Baptist, where I studied voice performance, piano performance. When I finished that in 2012, I squeezed my 4-year degree into 6. So typically it takes people 4 years, but I said, I'm going to take 6. Why not? An extra 2 years, right? College is cheap. As my mom can attest to that, yeah. So in 2012, I finished my undergraduate degree, and I moved to Midtown as quick as I could. And I've lived in the same neighborhood now for the past 8 years, and I've really enjoyed it. When I first got to Midtown, I said, this is the part of Midtown that they have not gotten to yet. And now it's the part of Midtown that they've just started getting to. There are a couple new sidewalks here and there. There's a nice new building right across the street. But I still have some of those friends that I've met, some of our homeless friends who have been here since 2012 when I got here too. So it's a really interesting time to live in Midtown when across the street there's this 30-foot high rise, 30-story high rise next to downtown Houston. I don't know. Do any of you all live downtown? Are you all in Baytown?
Yeah.
Baytown.
Mostly Baytown, but you know how it is. But I moved to Midtown as quickly as I could, and I started doing work at small theaters, and I started an internship at Houston Grand Opera, and then I decided that I wanted to put on my own shows because I, after having very limited experience, thought that I knew how to do it. And so I started putting on my own shows, and I started PMT Productions, which is the company that I've run since 2014. And since then, we've done so much. In 2018, this woman named Shannon Nichols bought some of the company from me, and we started our Young Artist series. And I will say that working in the performing arts is always, especially when you run an organization, is always, you're always just one sort of situation away from being closed. I think of like when the Enron situation happened in Houston, and the largest arts organization in Houston, the Alley Theater, thought, is this going to be it? Because Enron was a huge funder of the Alley Theater. So even at those major scales, arts organizations are always on the brink, but especially during a pandemic, it has been a really interesting thing. But I am thankful because having the business and having these students with us as sort of our guiding force has really encouraged us to innovate and do exciting things that we've never done before. Like, for example, the city of Houston stopped on March 16th, around there. A week later, we launched our first online program right here on Zoom for a group of about 10 students. And we've been working with them online and starting in person ever since then. And so I think without those students being sort of our motivation to do something for them, I don't know if we would have I don't know if I would be on this side of the pandemic and feeling the way I do. So I'm thankful for that. But throughout that whole time, since I was in elementary school through to last Sunday, I've always worked in the church, and I've always been part of the church. Like I mentioned, I went to an evangelical church when I was younger, and I got all of my start there playing in the youth band. And we went to competitions, and I sang in the choir. And I have such fond memories of several of the musicians that went to that church. I think of a piano player who's, when I say been playing forever, I really think that's the best way to describe it. I mean, I think she's probably still playing at this church. Her name is Jonelle Brown, and she's been just playing forever, and she taught me how I should properly play the piano and bring the melody out and how to play these old hymns. And there was a trumpet player who had also been playing forever who said, when you do play the piano, you need to do it this way, and this is how you do that. And that's what I think about at my time at that first church, is really, as I look back on it now, it was like this master class in how to perform and how to play music from these musicians who had had plenty of experience. You know, the church that I went to, there was a gospel group that was housed there called the McDuff Brothers. I don't know if any of you all are gospel people, but these are like guys who worked with the Gaithers and with those kinds of people. So gospel was something that we grew up on, and all these people knew that. But after that, when I was in college, I took my first job as a music director at a Nazarene church in Pasadena. It's called Pasadena First Church of the Nazarene. I think I had just turned 21, and the associate pastor was 25, and the lead pastor was just approaching 50. And he took a big, I know that because I remember thinking, even when I got the job, this is, I'm 21 years old, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. But he took a really big chance on us and let us do things like, the first year that I was there, we hosted an art show on the front yard of the church. I said there's a disconnect between our neighborhood coming to the church. You think Nazarene church, and it sounds a little like it's difficult to get into. So I said, let's host an art show on the front yard, and he said, let's do it. So we invited local bands and local artists. And we did that, and that's something that they did several years after that, even when I left. And then currently, when I started the Young Artist Series, we were doing a show at a church in Nassau Bay called Gloria Dei Lutheran Church. And they loved what we did. They asked me to come in and play their contemporary services, so I did. So now since 2018, all of our youth programming has been there at Gloria Dei, where I play every Sunday. So my involvement in the church has been something that's been with me since the beginning, and something that I think about constantly, and that influences a lot of what I do. Trying to, as I was thinking about all of the ways it influences me, it's almost difficult to quantify because it's just so much part of what I do. I know that the being thankful and that exercise is one that I use all the time, but even in just the way that we communicate with the students, the way we talk to our team members, it's all based on this idea of grace and kindness and those sort of fruits, right, that we learned about when I was very little at a private school. And so I'm thankful for that. When I think about this, I think about sort of the voices in my ear of the church that are still with me. There was my children's pastor, was very big on illustrated sermons, like maybe lots of children's pastors are. And it really sticks with people. But I remember specifically some of the things that he taught, like this sermon titled "Little Sins Lead to Big Sins, and Big Sins Kill," right? Talking about things like, oh, maybe you shouldn't say the little white lie, or maybe you shouldn't let things slide. Something that still influences me today. Or garbage in, garbage out, right? Where he talked about the things that you consume come out again. Something that thinks with me today. I think about all the times that I went to Vacation Bible School and my youth group memories. They're all with me now. My relationship with the church now is an interesting one, because I do attend every Sunday and I play. But also, I think that happens with most people who grew up in the church, as you get a little bit older and you start to have more experiences, some of your ideas are challenged a little bit. You know, so I think about when I first learned that the church spoke out about being unequally yoked with people. And they weren't just talking about Christians and non-Christians, you know, and learning that. And the church that I went to was very big about speaking out against any sort of alternative lifestyle and separating the boys and the girls to have these interesting talks. And that also influences the way that I do things now and my feelings about the church. And so I think now, as I was putting together my thoughts, I was trying to think, what is a sort of end thing? How do I describe where I am now? You know, I was a student that was in the church who I still hear, you know, those sort of interesting titles, you know, garbage in, garbage out, and it resonates with me. I remember the words of testimony, but I also remember very clearly that moment of realizing that the church has a lot going on that maybe we don't always have to agree with. And I thought, where am I now? And my feeling on where I am now is that I think that the church's influence on me was such a positive one, and I love being involved in it now. And I like to really focus on things like thankfulness and love and community. And you know, I guess just like everyone else, really, I am evolving and I am discovering new things about my feelings for the church and my relationships with the deity and in the church. So I'm on the road, hopefully with everyone, right? We don't have it all figured out yet, but I guess there's not really a conclusion to it because it's still in process. And I'm okay with that. So there's a little intro. I wonder if anyone has any thoughts, or you know, if we want to just start discussing some things.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I know that you've grown up in the church, and I also know that you're an artist. So have there been any programs that your team wanted to do that you said, yeah, you know, I don't think I can do that? Or are you open to doing all the different programs, whatever ones come up for y'all?
Well, so we have when I started in 2014, it was only adults. Okay, and so when kids come into the picture, you know, there are all sorts of different considerations. There are some theater. We're in a group of theater companies that we call ourselves fringe, right? So we're not these tier one equity $1 million operating budgets, but we're not the community theaters of volunteer actors. We're sort of on the fringes of being a mid-sized theater company. And a lot of times people will do shows that are, you know, kind of out there on the edge. And I personally am I'm okay with stepping into creative pieces that may be a little something you maybe wouldn't take your kid to. I mean, the most famous one, probably, I hope that you've heard of it, that we produced back in 2015 is called The Rocky Horror Show. I don't know. Has anyone heard of that?
Yeah.
Anyone go to the Shadow Cast and throw popcorn and newspapers and all that? But we did the Rocky Horror Show in 2015, and it was an interesting experience coming from growing up in the church and learning that that kind of maybe language or content is not appropriate. And again, maybe not something that you would want to bring your kids to, but I think for me, I was able to separate what I'm doing for work and how I live sort of my everyday life. And I think a lot of artists have to do that. That's something that we talk about with our older students. There are occasionally songs that come up that are appropriate for a 17-year-old, an 18-year-old, but there may be like one or two words in there that they don't feel comfortable with. And so we just kind of have a frank conversation and say, if you don't feel comfortable, you should not do it. But if you want to pursue this, it's something that you might have to consider doing. So I don't know, that's kind of an interesting thought, but I've always been a little bit more on the side of, at least when it comes to theater, trying to reach as many people as possible. There's a great theater in town called AD Players that like exclusively does, I wouldn't say religious or Christian necessarily, but it's always above board in terms of appropriate. It's all family friendly. Our company is not 100% like that. Now we're not doing these horrible shows where it's just all vulgar all the time, but occasionally there's a word or there's maybe a theme. Now when it comes to our students, it's all above board. We've done shows like Aristocats with our kids, and You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and Junie B. Jones.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah, all sorts of fun kid stuff. But I think on the adult program, I'm okay with us having a little bit of that flexibility on the content.
I think about what you're saying, and for me, I'm like, well, if you ever actually made shows out of the books of our scripture, it would not be all above board. So
Right.
I'm not saying that like, oh yeah, all the way, but I can see the nuance in that, and it's even present in our scriptures.
Right. That's a good point. It's not all positive, happy-go-lucky stuff in there, right? When you get into some of it, there's some tough themes. I mean, I think about, in many ways, I did a production of Godspell in, I don't remember when, a while ago, 2014 or 2015, and it's very, in my opinion, intense subject matter to see an actor reenact that whole closing sequence of like the crucifixion and the death. And I don't know if anyone's seen Passion of the Christ,
Yes.
but we've never done anything with that much blood. And so that's a good point, that it is, there are scenes, even if they were taken directly, that would jar people, I think.
What other questions do y'all have, or does it arise in you? Yeah, Jan.
Just a comment, really. Acting and plays are really copying life. And life isn't all just above board. And that those things don't offend me. And I'm in my 80s because it's part of life. I wouldn't want a whole play, overdoing it, but that's simply part of life.
I think that's a really good way to describe what I'm trying to say about the shows that we do. I have worked with theater companies that have done shows that are just, in my opinion, total shock value. We say we're a fringe company, but when it comes to the content we pick, it's really more mainstream. And I agree that if the function of it is to like represent this moment for someone or to share a real life experience with the audience, then I think that's appropriate and actually really necessary. We do a show called Midtown Live every year. It's the first show that we ever started with in 2014, and it's a pop concert, and they also do musical theater songs. But the thing that makes it unique is that each performer has selected their own song to sing, and we produce a video where we record them telling a story, a real life story of why they picked that song. And the first year we didn't really fully tell the performers what was going to happen, not because we were trying to hide it from them, but just it was our first time, we were rushed. But what happens is the video plays, the performer tells the story in the video, and then they step on stage and sing the song live. And we heard stories of heartbreak, of addiction, of love found, of coming of age. Not all, positive stories, but all stories that were real. And they resonated with the audiences so much because when they look at that performer and they hear their real life story, warts and all, they can relate to it. They recognize that that's not just your story, that's my story. And bigger, it's our community's story, and it's Houston's story. So I think that's exactly right, that if the point is to share this story and there's an end that happens to it, I'm pretty much on board with that.
Eduardo, do you have a set venue or do you go to various venues within the city, or do you go beyond the city, and how far beyond?
So all of the above. We don't have a set venue. So I guess not that one. Although, at some point soon, we've been around for, almost 7 years. Maybe by year 10 we'll have our own space, but all of our youth programming happens at Gloria Day in Nassau Bay. So that's our home base down on the south side of town. And then in town, our offices are in Midtown. So we rent there's a performing arts center literally right across the street called The Match that we've done work at. We've done work at Midtown Arts Center. We also one year did a Midtown Live tour where we went to Galveston and did a show at the old Strand Street Theater in Galveston. And then we came up into Deer Park because we have some friends who run Art Park Players out there. And then for our pop-up shows, which are these like one night only concerts, we do a holiday pop-up every year, which Mickey was talking about. We've done 70s, 80s. For those, we actually go into local like bar venues and we just perform like a really nice pop show for them. And the approach there is that not everyone is comfortable, putting on a suit and going into a big theater where they don't necessarily know where their seat is, and they're paying $20 for a glass of wine that's that big. But people are maybe more likely to go hang out in a bar for a little bit and see some good music and maybe get introduced to theater and then realize that they really love it. So we've performed everywhere. We're trying to get to our audience wherever they are on the one hand, and then on the other hand, real estate's getting a space is a pretty big deal. And I think that's one, since we don't have a space and we don't have that monthly overhead, I think that's one of the reasons we've been able to keep it up during COVID. I knew a theater that was housed downtown paying 10 grand a month for their theater space. And I don't know, that's a lot to me. It's probably typical for downtown stuff, but I just think if we would have been in that situation, it would, So in some ways, I'm thankful that we don't have a home space, but yeah, we're everywhere. We're everywhere.
What about your students? Are they young, older? What ages?
So our students are the youngest students we have right now are two 7-year-old twins who are just as sweet as can be, and they're on our competition team actually. And they, if any of you saw the tour of Waitress that came through maybe last year, they split the role of the little daughter. So they performed at the Hobby Center. I mean, they're really, I mean, they're still 7, so they act like 7-year-olds. But so that's our youngest, and then our oldest student right now is graduating in December, and she is 17. That's the age of our students right now, and every year we enter a competition that's in Los Angeles called MTCA, Musical Theater Competitions of America, and we're in a category that's called Open, and they classify us as like a triple threat school, which means we teach all of the performing arts disciplines, so music, dance, and acting. But the open category is a new one, and what it is it allows students as young as 8, and those girls will be 8 in January is why they're on the team, as young as 8 and as old as seniors in high school to compete on the same team. So I really pride myself on having a 9-year-old on the stage with a 16-year-old. And, there's a huge difference. I mean, I don't know if everybody has kids. I don't have kids, but I work with them. There's a huge difference between an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old. I mean, and to put them all on stage together and have the same high standard and say, obviously an 8-year-old can't do the same thing that a 16-year-old can do, but you as an 8-year-old can be the best 8-year-old performer. You can be the best 12-year-old performer. So I just love our students, and they're all ages, and they're all so talented, and they're all so sweet. All the time, they never misbehave. None of them ever talk out of turn.
Yeah.
They're so good. What else do we want to talk about?
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
So are you saying that when you go out to LA in that situation, are you recruiting or are you competing to get recognition for your theater group?
We're competing to get recognition. And let me show you. So last year was the first year. I'm going to turn my camera around, so just motion sickness. Do you see those big trophies over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
We won. Last year was our first year to compete. I just always show off the trophies because I'm so proud of the kids. Last year was our first year to go, and we were the only group from Texas. Okay, so first of all, they were already like, oh, Texas, they'd kind of written us off. But we won first place in our division, and we also got a sweepstakes trophy for having the overall highest score of the teams out there. So we go to compete, and one of the things that we say, and I truly believe this, is that the reason we did well is because we take our Texas values and we put them on this national stage. And I know that can mean a lot to a lot of people, but when I talk about values, you know where I'm coming from based on what I've said before. So I really do think that one of the reasons that we do well in those environments, or have in the past, is because we really do take our values on the road of hard work and collaboration and perseverance and kindness. So we go to just compete, not recruit.
How many students do you have?
On the books, we have, before COVID, we had about 100 on the books. And now we actually increased if you can believe this, we increased our student base by like 10 to 15% during COVID. And so now about 10, 15 of the students that we're working with currently online and in person are brand new to us. They've never done anything with us until COVID started. So we've actually grown our base over the last 6 months, and I hope it keeps up. We'll see.
Wow.
But realistically, probably of those 115, maybe 50 of them are like around all the time. Some of them are like they only do things every once in a while, but and hopefully more soon.
What is the name of your group?
So the company is called PMT Productions, and the young art. I'm going to put it in the chat too. The company is called PMT Productions, and then the kids program is called PMT Young Artist Series. But all the kids say YAS, like the acronym PMT YAS. And YAS is also, I'm not super familiar with the like origination of it, but it's also this, it's this thing that people say when they're really excited about stuff. YAS, so all the kids are running around saying YAS all the time. And it means Young Artist Series, so it kind of works on two levels there. But yeah.
Do you operate like your students are from what area?
So right now they're all from like Friendswood, Pearland, Nassau Bay, that sort of like southeast side on either side of 45, like south of the Beltway. But we have with our online classes, we did have people from out of state come on, which is great, and we're really trying to grow our online programming because I think we can reach more people. But primarily our in-person people are from that area. We have had students from different neighborhoods that can't think of offhand, but Nassau Bay is not like the most centrally located, so it's pretty much just around that region. Carrie.
You're mute, Carrie.
Oh, Carrie, you might want to put it in the chat. Sometimes Carrie's technology thwarts her.
You know what you might try doing, Meredith? If you put her in the waiting room and bring her back in, it might click on.
All right, I'll give it a go.
Sometimes that helps.
This has been an ongoing challenge for months, so.
Maybe not.
We'll see.
Yeah, if any of you guys are just kind of looking around, and I don't know if I know one person, Jan, mentioned grandkids.
Great grand.
Great grandkids. Great. So how old are they?
Well, they range from 4 1-year-olds, 2 6-year-olds, 3-year-old, 2-year-old, and we're expecting 2 more.
Wow. Okay, so lots of them. That is quite the legacy to have all of those grandbabies. But if you all are interested in looking at any of the stuff that we do, like online classes, I'm just going to put the website in the chat, and I'd love for you guys to check it out and just look around. One of the things that we started really early on was a scholarship fund, and we make it a point for every program that we do. We offer scholarships to students who may be in need. It came about because we launched the Young Artist Series the summer. We did a pilot in the June of 2017, so just before Harvey. And then our next program was in January of 2018, and we had lots of our students who, I don't know how Harvey was for Baytown, but in that area it was very bad. And so we started the scholarship fund, and businesses contributed and individuals contributed, and we were able to get every kid that wanted to be in it into it, and that really helped. And we continue to do that. During COVID, it's been a big consideration too, with so many people, parents getting laid off or doing whatever. So yeah, if you guys want to look around and see what we're doing, we just updated the website, so it's updated for 2021. Lots going on up there, but.
Carrie, did you get your question?
Still silent.
Yeah.
You put it in the chat. So while she's typing that in, I wanted to tell you I had never seen Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, that's
And,
right. I
y'all
forgot.
know Father Fred, remember I used to work at his church too. So Father Fred, Christy, my nephew and his wife and their son, we all went to the show. And Father Fred was wearing his collar. And so when we were watching the show, of course I'm so naive about stuff in general, I guess. But it was the best show and we had the best time. And I think the thing that was the best was Father Fred wearing his collar when we went to that show. And I think one of the characters came and sat on his lap. It was just the best night ever. We had
Mickey, I'm turning red for you all.
It was so good. It was so good. We had so much fun.
Of course you went. And Fred and I are friends on Facebook. And he actually, and I think you might have come with him, later that season, we had a little, like a big cast party for everyone, and he came also. And I totally forgot about that. That's why it was on my mind, Rocky Horror. Yeah, Frankenfurter, the main guy, thought that he would make a good chair for a section of the song, I think.
It was so good.
All right, Carrie's got a question. Whew. In the midst of COVID, are you working on anything special for this next year?
Well, we have lots of ideas. Our main focus has been the kids program and making sure that it is like I say this I guess as a joke, but in 2018 when we started the kids program, it really does feel like we had a kid. A few years after that, it's like your focus just goes on that. So our adult program has kind of taken the side, and everything has been about the kids. But we are looking at, HISD is not allowing field trips next semester. So we're looking at this idea of presenting virtual field trips to schools where we pre-record adult productions of like You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and present it to schools with like a special intro video. So we have plans for that. We think that we're going to go to LA at the end of March for that competition. So we have plans for that too. And the next thing that's happening is our 5th annual holiday cabaret. So it's a Christmas concert that happens at the Continental Club here in town, but this year we're streaming it. That's on December 20th. So we have a lot in the works. This year, it's this weird thing because it feels like things are stabilizing, but when you look at numbers and things like that, it's like you realize, we were all kind of focused on different things the last several weeks, but it feels like there are things are getting canceled less and less. But one thing that 2020 has taught me is that you have to make plans, but then you have to be ready to just adapt. And so we're ready for that too. We have plans, but we also are very aware that we may need to change them. And we're good at changing our plans now. That's for sure. That's a skill we learned this year, how to change our plans.
Other questions or thoughts or?
Cool.
So I've got a question for you, especially given what you had talked about with the Midtown concerts and Midtown Live. If you were to pick a song, what would it be? At least at this moment in time.
Yes. As you can tell, I'm a little bit of a long-winded talker. So I'm going to go a couple of ways with this. When I was growing up and doing primarily church music, I was the person in the youth band that always wanted to include hymns in our programming. Okay. And much to, too many words, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But I thought about how I could talk about hymns, and I haven't really talked about any music that much, but growing up, I loved singing and at competitions I would sing "His Eyes on the Sparrow," and that was one that really resonated me. And I also would sing "In the Garden." I come to the garden alone while the
I
you know.
know that song.
And another one that I did all the time was "I'll Fly Away," which is more of I guess some people would consider it more of a gospel song, but in the Assemblies of God Church we called that a hymn. And so that was a hymn, and those were the three that I was just always singing and performing when I was growing up in church. Now I've really loved. I really love like singer songwriter. What's happening on Broadway right now is a lot of contemporary songwriters, like maybe people we haven't heard of, but Alanis Morissette and Sarah Bareilles, and some of these pop singers are writing musicals, and I really love that. I love that musical theater is not so highbrow that a pop singer can't make it in. Um, and the songs that I love the most are by people that I know. I mean, I know lots of people who write music, and I love singing their music. In October, Shannon and I went to New York, and up until October I was a total fraud because I'd never. I'm a producer who had never seen a Broadway show. Okay, but I went and saw one, several, and there was this small show that was off Broadway called Scotland, PA. That was about these people that worked at a burger joint, and there was this one beautiful duet that no one had heard of, but Shannon and I performed it last year for Christmas, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. The songs that I love are ones that I discover and that I can perform for people so they can discover them. So I don't know if I could pick one song, but the song that I would pick would be one that probably we haven't heard of, and I would love to perform it for you. That kind of thing, so you could learn it.
Thank
So
you.
are you?
Yeah, I think the way you said that is people were like, "What?" And if that's not that's totally fine. I
Let me
understand
see.
it. Just
Yes,
like we're
we're
getting
waiting.
some fan club over here going
Let
on.
me see if I can pull up. Let me see if I can pull up something on my YouTube here. Do you want to see a little performance?
Yes.
I'm trying to think if the best way to do this would be on my.
You can share your screen.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually log on from a different device, and so I
Okay.
can stream it that way.
Alrighty.
Let me find when we're waiting for something right here. The thing that we say to our performers is "actors hold."
Well, while he's looking that up for y'all who were here last week, the song that I played for y'all was actually by a group that just did a musical off Broadway. It was a folk musical on 100 Days, so apparently there's like a theme going through here.
Okay, so you let me in. So now I'm going to find this video. This is actually the song that I was just talking about the duet that no one really had heard of that we did last year. This is what it is. So let me find how to do this pop up. And so I will stream it and share it on the screen. It may be slightly glitchy, but if we want to, it's about a 3-minute video. If we all just turn off our videos while this is happening, it'll stream better. But Meredith, just stick around and give me a thumbs up when you can hear it, and then I'll turn off my video too, okay? So this is called Clairvoyant from Scotland, PA. Broadway right now. Here it goes.
A bit louder.
Look around. We don't have to wonder anymore. Come on, smile. We are almost there. Picture the house we'll buy. See if this is better. So that is a little bit of what we do. Is that what you all were picturing based on what I said? It's really just a pop show, right?
Thank you. Thank you. And you're right. I've never heard that song before. So like, wow, there you go.
It's a great ballad. Now, I will say, since we do have time, and I don't know why I didn't think about this earlier. That was what we do on the adult end. I do have one video of one of our 9-year-old students singing too, if you want to see that.
Oh, yeah, love it.
Sure. I think that's a good way for us
Yes.
to kind of. It's a good way for us to kind of start to close in. That'd be good.
Yeah, I think that's a great. It's a great closing moment, and I know that Thanksgiving has not happened yet, and I am thankful for a lot, and it's probably my favorite. But this will put you in the holiday spirit too. I think a little bit. Okay.
Charlotte Award. We're proud to introduce tonight Miss Olivia Kirtley.
I saw Mommy kissing Santa Claus underneath the mistletoe last night. She didn't see me creep down the stairs to have a peek. She thought that I was tucked up in my bedroom fast asleep. And I saw Mommy tickle Santa Claus underneath his beard so snowy white. Oh, what a laugh it would have been if Daddy had only seen Mommy kissing Santa Claus last night. You don't believe me, don't you? I saw him last night. In my headphone, I would have taken a picture of it right then and there, and I would have shown it to you all. You believe me, don't you? No one? Come on. Why not? There they are. Then I saw Mommy tickle Santa Claus underneath his beard so snowy white. Oh, what a laugh it would have been if Daddy had only seen Mommy kissing Santa Claus last night. Oh, what a laugh it would have been if Daddy had only seen Mommy kissing Santa Claus last
She is very talented.
Yes, she is. She's very talented. She's very smart too, and very sweet, just like all of our kids. Thank you all for letting me spend this time with you. I say this with all the classes I do. It's always, I don't know why it surprises me at this point because it happens so much, but anytime groups of people can get together and visit and spend time with each other, it just does so much positive for me. So thank you all for spending some of your Wednesday evening with me. I had to check to see what day it was. Thank you for spending some of your Wednesday evening with me. I appreciate it. Thank you for the invite, Mickey. Thank you for hosting, Meredith.
Thank you so much. And I
Thank
also want
you.
to acknowledge, like, we're grateful for you, and you are like our finale in a series of wonderful speakers. And so we are grateful for you. And also, just a note to our folks, we're going to take a couple week break, and then we're going to come back the first week of
What's
Advent
happening?
with something different. Hello? Did I totally miss something?
No, that was Natalia. I don't know what she.
Okay, but so yeah, let's give our thanks, and I'm so glad that our greater Houston community has you and what you all are doing through your production for the arts and for our kids. And who knows, after all this is said and done, when you guys like have something, make sure and include us, and we'll see how it can go forward.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. All right. Whew.
Nice job.
Blessings and good night to you all.
Night.
Good night.
Night.
Thanks.
Tell you, thank you for your son. You must be so proud of him.